Welcome to Totally Talent Podcast by HR.com, your go-to source for all things talent. Whether you're looking for expert insights on high-volume hiring, the latest trends in recruitment technology, or strategies for building a winning team, we've got you covered. Join us for each episode as we dive deep into the challenges and opportunities shaping the talent landscape today. Let's get started.
Hey friends, welcome back to another edition of Totally Talent. My name is Mike Wood and I am from HR.com. I'm a TA analyst and community leader, and I happen to know just a ton of people in the space. And one of those people is Mr. Stephen McGrath. He's my friend from across the pond. He's over in the Scotland general area. Welcome to the show, Stephen.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you again, as always.
yes. So, Steve, if you just want to give just a quick intro. So Stephen's with poetry. What does poetry do?
So poetry is a hiring enablement workspace. Essentially, we have created a space for recruiters to be able to do over 28 of their daily tasks. So there is some AI involved in that. There's collaboration business-wide involved in that. And it's just a space for them to stop having 100 different things open that do a bunch of tasks that they need to do that day. The way that I describe it really is that it's kind of everything before you do candidate management, right? So everything to help you around that, framing around it, job adverts, job descriptions, all the way up to things like interview questions and offer letters, but not getting involved very cleverly in the GDPR or logistical nightmare that is candidates.
Gotcha. Yes, there's a lot of restrictions out there, and I don't blame you for not being in front of the firing line for when it comes to when something bad happens on that front.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I love that, so Stephen, you're a recruiter, or you were a recruiter. So
Yes.
you were a recruiter, and you're building the platform to help other recruiters. What are just off the top of your head, what are the current things that you're seeing just that recruiting teams are struggling with?
Yeah, so I'll answer that in two ways, because the way that I frame poetry when I go into businesses is very much that, if people worked with me at any of the places that I worked in technology, they'll be sick of me saying to customers and prospects, I was a recruiter. I sat on your desk doing what you did. And to be honest with you, all I thought I was signing up for at 19 years old was have conversations with people, offer them jobs.
That sounds good.
Right? That's kind of what I thought. I was like, all right, well, I could sell something to somebody, a company, or an opportunity, and I can offer them a job. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. What nobody told me was, yeah, can you write that job advert, and can you write that job description? And by the way, we're going to try and figure out an interview framework, so can you be involved in that? And I'm like, mate, I left school with nothing. I shouldn't be writing anybody's anything. I don't. What do you mean?
You should not be the gatekeeper.
Exactly. I'm just a 19-year-old guy that's going, right, okay, copy and paste that blurb about that, and I'll paste it over here, and change 3 words so it kind of looks like it's my thing, but there's no. I mean, this was 15 years ago now, so there wasn't really a main focus on employer brand and what it is that you're doing, and how you kind of perceive it. Was people should want to work for us was the general consensus of most of the companies that I worked with in agency recruitment. That changed probably later a bit when I got involved in talent acquisition. But yeah, I didn't know that that's what being a recruiter of any kind what was, right? I didn't writing adverts, writing interview questions, having conversations back and forth, the disappointment if that doesn't happen, all of that kind of stuff. So what I'm seeing is that we're 15 years down the line from that and nothing's changed.
No,
and it's
no.
everything has changed and nothing has changed all at the same time, which is a really bizarre kind of space to be. We still talk about how do we attract the best people. We still talk about you're not writing job descriptions correctly and your job advert's not as good as my job advert. And some people don't even know the difference between them both, which is mental to me. But anyway, it's that kind of thing of we seem to be facing consistently the same kind of issues. So things are coming up from all of the data that we're kind of collecting to say that recruiters are struggling with writing job adverts. They don't know how to do that in terms of in alignment with their company brands and company guidelines, and quite often they're in charge of the front line of that. And they're struggling with talent research. So where do they get the information from? And quite often they're going to unverified sources to do that and to get it. So Poetry tries to collate some of that, which allows us to kind of have a look at it. And then last but not least is really just the overall kind of consensus of how do I gather as many assets as possible? We call that a playbook. To be as ready as possible for recruiting for that job. So that's the three kind of most used things that we see repeatedly. Doesn't matter the company size, which is really interesting. There could be 20 people, there could be 2,000 people. It's the same kind of format and the same struggles that people are having over and over again.
So it's funny, like as you were talking about this, I'm thinking that, recruiters and candidates, we've both been trying to find each other, trying to find that one true love. For the past 15 years, we got the million tools to do that. And yet we're still sitting in front of someone being like, is this the person I really want to spend time with? Am I wasting my time? So it's like, there is a parallel to, I don't know. I mean, I've been off the dating scene for a long time, but I'm sure that like the online dating nowadays is the same thing, where you're just like, is this person who they say they're going to be? Or are you going to get catfished by a candidate? Or you're just like, you've done everything on your own to like game the system and to get that dinner with this person, but are you wasting your time?
I mean, if you're a girl on Tinder now, apparently when I looked at LinkedIn the other day, LinkedIn's my only form of social media, so it's where I get most of my news and everything as well now.
That's smart. That's smart. For your mental health, that's very smart.
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, and I see that there's a height selector, right? They can now select if they want men over 6 foot, right? If you do not think, speaking as a man, that if I am 5'10" and 5'11", that I'm not just sliding up to being 6 foot, so that everybody that's got that, then you got what? Like, how else are they going to verify it, right? So that's companies, right? Companies do that. Well, we're only 5'10", but let's say we're 6 foot, right? That's the company.
Everybody's doing it. Everybody's just kind of like. So I'm 5'7". If I put that in, and you're probably around my height, like. And I'm 5'7" if I'm wearing shoes. So it's not like I forget that it's really probably more along the lines of 5'6". And as you get older, your spine compresses. So I'm probably even smaller than that. Yeah. But like if I take that, like I'm a candidate to try and get someone to love me, and I know that they're going to love me once they meet me, and my personality kind of brings good things forward. It's not just what you see on the page. I might say I'm 5'10" at least, or something like that. I might say I have all my hair. I might say I might say I don't have a wife and kids. I do. But so just to get to that point,
it's that kind of weird thing where and look, to be fair to a lot of companies we deal with, they are definitely trying to combat that in any way possible, right? So they're trying to bring people on board. They're trying to build guidelines around it and templates around it to say, like, try and represent who we are effectively, make it more conversational, things like that. So there is that kind of like navigation, which probably for the last maybe 3 to 5 years has been very, very strong in terms of everywhere you go is all about candidate attraction, employer brand, how we're going to, really build that and kind of stand out. And then, boom, the wrecking ball that is generative AI comes out of nowhere 2 years ago and goes, hold on a minute, I'm just going to step that right back, because what you're going to do as a business now is you're going to realize that everything's a cost function. And if we can get loads of free ChatGPT licenses or Claude licenses or whatever it is, and recruiters can just use that, or, pay a very minimal amount, and recruiters just use that, then do we really need all that stuff that we were doing before that we claimed that we love to do? or do we actually just care about saving money and putting kind of the tools in people's hands that are the end user, the people that create the adverts, without guidelines, and that's why when you click on LinkedIn today, everything that starts with a rocket emoji and says, exciting opportunity, here we go, everybody starts complaining about. But there is that kind of, and look, just to clarify my feelings on that, that's actually not a fault. That is people using the tools that are at their disposal to the best of their own abilities. So the onus is actually then on the companies to train people effectively on how to use prompt AI, and get the best out of it, right? So you then need to pivot away from the other stuff that you're spending money on to go and do that anyway, and it becomes that kind of like cycle of, there's not the fault of a person that's trying to get somebody, to join their company as a creative designer, for going on using an AI kind of model or LLM to write something. It's the fact that the company's just saying, yeah, that's fine. We're not going to regulate that. Just go for it and see what happens. So we're in a very interesting time with all of that.
It's just like, so you've written about this a little bit in the past, is that, with AI, we're all essentially writing towards the general population, if that makes sense. So we're all writing towards the norm of what you'd want to see. So nothing really stands out anymore. And so like everybody is doing the same type of rocket emoji, come join our company, but they're not really saying anything about that company. They're just like, it's a rocket ship. Awesome.
No.
And so, so who's protecting the brand?
Yeah, so I do have, as you mentioned, I've written about that, and I do have pretty strong feelings that people that are involved in recruitment marketing or employer brand should probably try and have some sort of control over that. And that's going to involve some people being brave enough to go and just grasp the world of AI with both hands, not see it as a hindrance for their role, but instead go and provide case studies and examples of, this is why we need to use this kind of tool. We need to use it at scale. But actually, we call them AI guardrails, or I call them AI guardrails. We still need to write guardrails around what we're going to provide, the tools that we're going to give recruiters to use it, and how we let them use it, right? So I think there is that kind of element of, you want to make sure that the right people are in control of that type of thing, while being able to use it at scale, right? Because that's the whole point of AI. The whole point of AI is coming back to, let's reduce costs, let's get the lowest common denominator, give everybody access to everything, and allow them to do it. But the reality is that you can't do that unless you have it all set up properly and someone's somebody or a team are consistently monitoring it. So I think I put out there on the ether that I think it should be called an AI brand strategist, or something along those lines. And that's a pivotal turn that people in recruitment marketing or employer brand could take, that would help them embrace it, and help them gain a bit of control over it. Now, what rate people want to do that's entirely up to them. But that's how I feel that there could be a kind of gap in the market to do a bit of both.
Yeah. So I was at a conference last week. Well, not a conference, but I was at a PR agency, talking to them, and kind of seeing, from the PR standpoint of like marketing, writing, and stuff. You just have to be like, there's a whole new set of guidelines. So everything used to be search engine optimization. I got introduced to a new term last week called GEO, not SEO, which is Gen AI optimization. And so now you're writing towards the summaries that come up. Yes. And so it just kind of flipped the script a little bit. Like, like if you're like back, 10 years ago, if you weren't on the first page of Google for search returns, you weren't on any pages.
Exactly.
And so it's along the same concept, but it's you got to know how to position yourself so that the Gen AI pulls the right information. And so Gen AI is pulling from the top, it's like an extension of SEO. And so I just feel like that is kind of where we're moving with things, is that But I actually have a theory that there's going to be a pushback at some point where candidates want to talk to a real person earlier in the process. I think if a company is going to put me through 6 rounds of interviews, they don't really care about the candidates. If a company is going to, be as generic as possible, they just want a butt in the seat. Like, I think that there's going to be more humanity at a premium, if that makes sense.
Yes. So I agree with that for certain types of roles. So my 18-year-old twins have no interest in speaking to
You have
you, to me,
18-year-old
to
twins?
yeah.
Okay, wait,
They
we
have,
need to focus on this for a minute. You have 18-year-old twins?
yeah.
You're a young guy.
Oh, I am, yeah. I'm 35, yes.
35.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Listen, it's
Good
cold and
for
it's
you.
dark in Scotland, right? So anyway, yeah,
No, that's great. Good for you, because I can't imagine. I have a 9-year-old, and I just can't imagine like 2 of the 9-year-olds, but not 2
yeah.
18-year-olds. So,
I also have
uh,
an 18-month-old baby, so yeah, we're
wow.
very big fans of age gaps in this house.
That's
But
okay. So sorry I interrupted. So go back to your 18-year-old. Are you going to talk
yeah,
about what they're facing in the workplace?
I'm going to tell you that they have no interest in speaking to you, to me, or anybody else. So they don't, if they're applying for a job, ideally they wouldn't even be interviewed for that job, to be honest with you. Ideally they would apply on a phone. um, they would maybe get some sort of basic skills assessment, bearing in mind that they're probably going to do some basic level of customer service, or a job in kind of like fast food, or retail, or
Yeah.
something like that. They want to, skills that were important for that maybe 10 or 20 years ago, where lots of those things were a bit more relationship focused rather than transactional. But we live in a transactional world now, where they have spent the last 3 to 5 years of their life watching 30-second videos and getting what they want from that, in the world that they live in. And the customers that are going to the types of stores that they work in, um, primarily talking about my daughter here. My son works in a building site, and he communicates with agency recruiters via text message. Never speaks to them. So can you show up on Monday? Yes, and he shows up on Monday. Like that. That's the deal. And he never really has to sit and talk to anybody. And I think that's the kind of thing, right? So if you're trying to attract those people for the roles that you're working with, then there is going to be a model, which is, how can we automate that as fast as possible? How can we maybe assess those people's skills as quickly as possible during that process? I then think that probably extends into junior levels of digital kind of based roles, or web based roles, where it is more skills focused than it is anything else. And then you're going to have mid to high level career folks who care about the process, and care about the company. And it is, the RPO model, or the agency model, or the skills kind of platform of the future will be a premium feature to speak to somebody, either externally or internally. So I definitely agree that is a world that we're facing. I think it's probably for mid to high level people than it is more for kind of entry level, and junior employees who probably just want to get their career started. And we're told that if they go to university and if they pay a whole bunch of money, that they're going to come out with a job. And now they're lots of them have just spent 4 years doing software engineering degrees, and then have gone, oh no, there's something out there that can build entire platforms in 35 seconds with a prompt. What am I
Yeah.
going to do?
I mean,
So I think there's those kind of two elements to it.
yeah, there's like the high volume hiring where you just need to have a set of skills, and you can even take those same concepts over to like the engineers of the world. Like, can you code in Python,
Yeah.
for example? But where I see AI hitting a roadblock is where you're getting the more nuanced skills. Like if you're
Yes.
hiring someone to lead your sales team, for example, or to lead,
Yeah.
um, your entire team of engineers.
Yes.
But
yeah, I
what I
think
do want to, oh, go ahead.
there's two things there. There's the people management aspect, and there is the doing aspect. I've worked with lots of great people who can do one of those things, but not both of them. So you do need to get those kind of things right, and I think that probably requires more than somebody just looking in a bit of paper or reading a skills assessment or something like that. But yeah, so I think there's that kind of like if you're going to have leaders and you want people that are going to be in charge of a sales team or leading a full team of engineers globally, you probably want to make sure that they can at least talk to people and be empathetic and do that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So
your twins?
yes,
No, they can't talk to people.
yeah,
Well, that younger
no, they
generation,
don't.
they aren't used to talking to people. They aren't. It's
No,
just like,
no, I I was so I was I'm part of kind of everything that we do at Poetry right now. We're a very small company, so I get involved in sales and ongoing customer success and product and things like that. And like 2 weeks ago, I just phoned somebody's phone number because it was at the bottom of their email, and they were like, "Hello." And I was like, "Hiya, Stephen from Poetry," and you honestly would have just thought that like I had shown up at their house with like a box of donuts and a pair of binoculars or something. Like I was just kind of like, hello, like it was like an awkward kind of like 30 seconds of like trying to figure out why I would have phoned them rather than just, arranging a call in 3 days' time via a video link, which is like a weird like thing that we have got into in this world of like, it's either just a text, a voice note, or it's very much scheduled in the future, right? It's not, people don't do on-demand calls anymore unless you're a SDR that has to do that repeatedly all day.
yeah,
But
no, I think that's more like, I don't know. I think, I'm a talkative guy. I'll answer the phone unless I don't recognize the number. If I don't recognize the number, I've gotten so many scam calls and so much stuff that I wish I didn't answer that I just won't answer it. So I think
yeah,
you're running
I
into that a
still,
little bit.
I answer, I answer all of them because you never know that plus 7 5 3 4 number could be telling me that I've just won the lottery. So I'm gonna let's see what they've
That
got to say.
happens. Yeah. No, mine
Okay,
is like, hey, we
it's
want
not
some
happened
money
yet.
from you. Mine is all people that want money. They want me to send them money.
Yeah.
They are. It's usually just garbage phone calls.
Yeah.
And so I'll look and I'll see like family members going, do I really want to talk to this person?
Yeah.
To hang up, put
Yeah.
it right to voicemail. I did want to ask your opinion about agentic AI because it's one of those things
Yes.
that I'm seeing that's just like everybody's saying everything's agentic AI. What
Yep.
is your take on agentic AI? Can you tell me like how does poetry kind of like approach it? Like how do you approach it?
Okay, so how harsh do you want me to be in the answer to that
Be
question?
harsh. We need listeners.
Stephen McGrath says there's nothing agentic
Yeah, oh,
about
yeah.
anything anybody's putting out there, which is actually pretty much my stance, to be honest with you. So I don't know if you remember, well, you will remember because you've worked in the space, but we kind of were in a weird bit 5 to 10 years ago where AI matching was. Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
wait there. Let me do that. AI matching was a thing, right, amongst CRMs, ATSs, all of those kind
Huge.
of, and all that was a list of keywords, and we're going to look for that keyword, and we're going to just do this, right? We're just going to draw
Yep.
parallel lines between that. There, it was far fetched to call that artificial intelligence, but we did it because it was good for marketing. It worked for sales. It let people think that they were at the forefront of whatever the technology was that it was offering. And we just kind of built some other stuff around that. That was also AI, and it was kind of like that, right? You had to have AI models in your technology to make it worthwhile. So we now fast forward to the exact same thing happening with agentic. And my real thoughts on that are that having sat on, I think, probably between 10 and 15 demos this year of technologies that have claimed to be, um, are not. An agentic model makes autonomous decisions and will then take action on those decisions. That's what it is by definition, right? So if your agentic model just goes and makes a decision and then doesn't do anything about it, it's not really, by definition, it's not. And if you are only doing part of the process and there's no learning or iteration or continuous workflow from it, then it's not really. And that's not a slight on anybody. It's just that lots of people haven't figured out that next part of it, or they're in the phase of building it. But I think that it's quite unfair for companies to stand there with like Hollywood style lettering saying that we're agentic, when actually they've only figured out probably about 50% of the process. And look, I understand how technology works and I understand how marketing works, and you've got to do that so that the people come in and the buyers pique their interest. We have built some pretty damn close things, probably some, I'm very biased, but some of the closest, use cases that I'll see where recruiters can upload, or add their job title and JD to their ATS. Poetry goes away, figures out what assets they need to build from that, provides a summary around why it's choosing those assets with hiring landscapes and things like that in terms of how difficult or hard it might be to fill that role, what they need to focus on, whether it's candidate centric or whether it should be job focused and company focused. And then we'll build out of those 28 assets I talked about, the key, let's say 8 to 12, right, for an example. And we still don't call that agentic. And we don't call it agentic because the recruiter still needs to take those and action it. And they still need to, do something about it. Whereas that would then be, if we completed that process and made it more automated, made it run in the background, made the human not have to input anything. So, it's human in the loop for us. It's human in the loop AI. It's what we call our playbook assistant. And we didn't call it an agentic playbook for that very reason, because we decided that actually we're not going to tell people it's something that we don't think it is yet. So I think there's lots of people that are building some really cool stuff there. Lots of people are, out there, and there's lots of people arriving at, a very kind of similar point. But what they are doing is just using the AI models that they already have in place to do very specific jobs, and it's confusing people slightly.
Yeah, real agentic is when you leave it on its own and it's going to learn. Yeah. It's another thing in the background, and you better hope that you set up parameters so that it's going to do things right.
And there is the element of that, Mike, where I'm not saying that you shouldn't set anything up, and there shouldn't be guardrails, and there shouldn't be parameters, and you could even have different workflow examples in that and stuff. So you don't just type something into a machine and then just say run forever and go for it and see what happens. Of course, you need to do some legwork around that and make sure that you've kind of set the stuff up correctly. But it is more that continuous learning, that decision making, the follow-up process from it that really changes something just from being AI to being agentic, right? And that should be the definition, in my opinion.
I mean, yeah, it's like there's a parallel now between and I'm sure you've had this with your kids. You tell your kids to do something and you think you're explaining it well, and then you'll go off to focus on something else and you'll come back and they've done something that is either too literal to what you had said or they're completely missed the mark. And so how can you keep them on track and kind of be there without having to be there?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, there's just been I'm struggling on finding an example off the top of my head for my 9-year-old, but I do work with teenage boys for the Scouting America out here in the US. But there is just so many times where I've told a scout to just be like, okay, this is what we need done, and can you do X, Y, and Z? And then I'll go off and I'll come back, and it's like, did you listen to anything I said?
Yes, and I think that's the thing, right? When it's more just about not leaving it, not leaving it up to complete artistic interpretation of like what that task might look like. So, I want you to do this, and once you are done that, I want you to do this next thing. So based on that decision, then follow up with X, Y, or Z. And I think there's that kind of, or Z, sorry, if you to translate for the Americans out there. So yeah, the thing is, like, there's going to be around about a 6 to 12 month period of time that if you are looking to invest in technology of any kind, that your business is saying, how are we going to be more agentic by 2026? That, with specific kind of teams. Recruitment is low hanging fruit, right? It's low hanging fruit to test stuff on, because it is a cost center in many kind of corporations' eyes. You see it in terms of the fluctuation of numbers. It goes up and down depending on recessions and how well a company's doing. So quite often they become customer zero, right, for whatever it is that they are going to test in terms of processes or policies or things like that. So in our world, in this space, the buyers have to really have a think about, okay, what does this look like? Ask questions about your roadmap and how things are built and what that's going to look like and who maintains it and, what's the instructions around it. And, can we affect that? Because we actually have some very strict guidelines here at, Company X. And I think there's those kind of elements that we're putting kind of blind faith in people. I'm one of these people, but people who are, in technology companies. Well, you must just know what you're doing, and I've not really had the time to research it. So, do your research essentially when you're having a kind of look at that. And and if you're in HR tech, just stop saying that things are agentic when they're not, please. Thank you very much. That's
I think it's like everything is AI, everything is agentic, everything. You have to have these terms. I get it, to attract buyers because they want everything to be agentic, but just don't say it if you're not there yet.
Yes.
So we're coming up on time here. This should air around when Wreckfest UK is happening. I think that's soon, right?
Yeah, it is. It's a month away. So
a month away. Okay.
Yeah.
So in July.
Yeah, and the 10th of July. So I will be there. I'll be there with some people that people might know, Chad and Cheese. We'll be doing some stuff together there. I don't really know what they're going to want me to do. I just shout random noises during their show, so I don't imagine they're going to want me to do that.
That's probably what they're looking for.
Yeah. Probably just standing around shouting, obscenities and other things at people. Probably.
Well, Wreckfest UK, like the UK version, like the US hasn't quite gotten there yet, but the UK version is a huge party, right?
Yeah. So the Wreckfest UK is drastically different to the US, having been to both. A lot of that's to do with that our drinking culture is just a little bit stronger.
Well, you guys have a happier, like you guys have a better life. You have vacations, you have health insurance.
Yes,
it's not, you don't live in a dystopian hellscape. You like, so I get it. I get it. Yeah. You can be a little like the secret police aren't going to come get you.
No,
out in Scotland, but no, they're on the corners. They're probably hiding.
So what happens? Wreckfest is brilliant. A large field, Nebworth, quite a famous, concert area. Oasis performed there, and things like that. So I think there's basically a whole bunch of essentially kind of circus style tents. There is a Ferris wheel. There is alcohol and bars, and basically it's just a lot of and live music and stuff as well. But it's a place for your team to really come and have a great day out, right? So it becomes that kind of really kind of team building exercise and the chance to, if you want, learn about the technology that's there and that's up and coming in the industry. But probably more important than that is the chance to see some really great speakers and the ability to sit in some sessions that hopefully people can take some stuff away with as well. So they do an incredible job. And the US one is not far away, but behind the UK in terms of where it's going to be. I absolutely loved last year. I'm going again this year. So I'll see you there
Same.
if you're going to be there.
Yep.
And I think they do such a great job for this space. I mean, one of the great initiatives. People are going to start thinking I'm getting paid for this. One of the great initiatives of of Wreckfest and kind of the RL 100 team is, well, they do things like different lanyards. So if you're open to opportunities and you just want to come and mingle with people, they offer you the chance to come and do that. A really trying time for people in this industry, and just allow you to kind of just come for nothing but networking and your time. So I think it's so great in the UK. It's my favourite event probably ever. However, Nashville, when I went last year, might be my favourite place that I've ever been to. So, and I've
Yes,
been to a
and
lot of
they're going to be
places.
back in Nashville this year. I
Yeah,
think my wife's coming this year because we haven't had any type of getaway with the two of us for a long time. So it might just be the two of us and Deb McGrath. Uh, but
well, yeah, yeah.
we'll be at
I'll buy her a
Wreckfest.
drink at the bar.
Yeah. Oh, she's gonna be like, these are actual real people that you talk to. I'm like, yes, they are. But I love Nashville, and actually, my
Yeah.
American football team is going to be playing the Nashville team that weekend, and so I'm
Oh,
like,
really?
oh, do I stay? Do I stay and
Yeah,
spend too much money to see my team lose?
yeah. I
So,
I was going to do that last year, but I end up needing to be back, and it's my birthday the Saturday after Nashville. So I've told my
oh, okay.
partner, I've told my wife that I'll be home to spend it with the family. So I'll be having a wee 14-hour
Is she,
flight back before then.
was she disappointed?
Well, she because we have the young one now. She's
Yeah.
like, well, I want her to spend time with you on your birthday. So yeah, no, I understand that.
She's like,
I'll
you're
be
not going to
back.
be around much longer. She's got to develop memories.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah,
All right. Well, Steve McGrath of Poetry, it's always great to talk to you. If you just want to find you, just go on LinkedIn. He writes a lot. Steve McGrath Poetry. Thank you for joining Totally Talent, and I look forward to seeing you in person later in the year and probably talking before then.
yeah, man. Always nice to spend time with you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Totally Talent podcast by HR.com. We hope you find today's episode insightful and inspiring. Don't forget to explore more episodes and discover valuable resources at hr.com/podcasts, where you can listen to all of our podcasts. Until next time, keep leading with purpose and making a difference in the world of talent.